Hello, guys. I am Shane Davis, 20-year comic book veteran. I'm here with another beautiful, lovely. Sometimes she has been known to make me a sandwich. Haven't said that in a while. Yanzi Lynn. And today is the day we are talking more about decimated DC, literally as it burns down to the ground. But before we get into it, please hit like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, as this may be some of the last days of the mainstream comic book media as we know it. Here we go. DC Comics has officially over half of the DC Comics line has fallen off the chart, off the top 100 list. Okay, so more than half doesn't even qualify in the top 100 comics. Now, considering they're the half of the big two, that's tragic. That's devastating. We are seeing books like Wonder Woman, even a Batman book, off the top 100, and this is at a pivotal time, a crisis at Warner Brothers all around, as Zaslav is cutting films like Batgirl, stopping production going forward on Supergirl. Who knows what he's going to end up having to do with that Flash movie, putting kind of a halt to a lot of things that just don't make sense, that things that aren't good stories, things that are just, it doesn't matter if there's a Latina in there. It doesn't matter if it's woke. That's not a reason to make a movie, a comic book, anything to this guy. This guy's looking to cut costs. He's also looking for stories and characters that people like. He doesn't want to put out bad films. And if he doesn't want to put out a bad film, I'm not so sure he wants to put out a bad comic. And we're seeing like a response from the market to the stuff DC Comics has been doing. Let's look at this chart.
Right, so we have the sales chart for the top 200 comic books by unit sales in the month of July. Now, Batman is, well, surprisingly, is number one. But what amazes me about this year is not the fact that Batman is number one, because everyone knows right now Batman is the only thing that sells at DC. But the fact that Dark Crisis issue number 2 of 7, that's right, only the second issue, and is position number 7, is behind titles like, Spider-Man number 5, Amazing Spider-Man number 6. So it's behind a bunch of non-debut issues is my issue over here. The fact is that a Crisis event is supposed to be like, maybe the first or second ranking book of the month, isn't it?
Whoa. But this is supposed to be our JLQ, right? Our Justice League Queer?
They say that it's just a temporary Justice League and then eventually the old league will come back. Wait, we change our mind. Here comes the old league. Yay.
Yeah. All right. So woke, go broke. You're literally watching this happen in real time. Marvel's doing better, of course, but the thing is like comic book shops need core characters that people understand, characters that have brand recognition, that are household names to sell. For this industry to sustain, it can't all be indies. I love me some indie books, okay? But what's the point of having a character like Superman unless it's selling? What's the point of having a character like Wonder Woman unless you can sell it? And right now, that's where DC Comics finds themselves. Mainly, they're able to sell Batman, but shockingly, we have Batman books not doing so great.
We have some Batman books that are running down past in the 100 range, I think. Oh, that's nice. Batgirls is all the way in 107. All right, we have Batman Urban Legends at 127, and I Am Batman at 125. So that's quite surprising. I thought people all want Batman. Oh, it's Batman fatigue setting in. Who knows?
That's like a crutch right now, Batman. And a lot of weight that crutch is holding up, which is the entire responsibility of the DC publishing line. So there's a couple of things I want to touch base on this video. One is, it's kind of common if you're Marvel or DC, more so DC, that you will lose money in some books, but you lean on your moneymaker books, and you'll even up the price with a backup story or something like that to kind of shoulder the weight of the dead weight publishing line. DC Comics is basically leveraging Batman and putting all its weight on Batman, but needing more Batman books to sustain the dead weight of DC Comics. Now, this could be SJW type books, like we have examples of Batgirl and why they're selling so well or not so well. But there's also there's this thing in mainstream comics where, especially at DC Comics, they're like, well, we're being bought up by AT&T. They don't care about the publishing line. We're just research and development. We're just keeping their properties fresh for them, keeping the pillow fluff, so to speak. But That's not true. The reality is AT&T came in and did multiple bloodbaths at DC Comics, cutting and cutting and cutting editorial staff, people that run conventions. This year, we've seen DC Comics get evicted from their building to basically hot desk. For people who know, you go look that up, but it's like who gets there first that day gets the desk. They don't even have their own offices. It's short of it. We've also seen no booth at San Diego Comic Con this year. They went from around 20 some panels a con to 4 panels this last year. A devastating SDCC. The thing is you can only invest the profits from your business back into your business. And right now, DC Comics is probably, from my understanding and what I'm hearing, there's a lot of doom and gloom in the air. They're on a block, and they're being evaluated as we speak. Now, the numbers we're seeing today, the DC's internally have had these numbers for a month. We're probably at a point of going to see some changes happening. Now, if you're David Zazoff, you have a decision to make. Like, do you keep reinvesting in DC Comics publishing? Because right now, this is what they're doing. Let's beat people with a bat wrapped in the trans flag. Now, obviously, he kind of nixed a Batgirl film, and he's already being framed by the comic book media, not even Hollywood media. He's getting shit on by Kevin Smith. Sure, you have to make this movie because of representation. You have to put this out because of representation. You need to throw in probably $90 million on a $70 million film that and lose $90 million because nobody's going to watch it because it's that bad. If this is the comic material DC Comics is making, what do you do with this? Do you have like Superboy Prime come and punch a crystal wall and make everybody back to core DC Comics? You can't. I'm going to explain why you can't. Because everybody's going to call you an ist or a phobe, which you're already framing the man right now for just axing that film as being an ist, a phobe, a radical right-wing guy. Just because he didn't do what the SJW, the loudest voice, but the smallest minority of consumer. So it's a weird terrorist situation he's in. Obviously, these sales numbers, right? As long as I've worked at DC Comics, these sales numbers need a reboot. You have to put a tourniquet on this. You have to do a reboot, but you can't. Because you would either have to invite more of SJWs in, and not just SJW content, but actual SJWs in. You can't get rid of less because then it's a right-wing thing. You see, everything becomes political. You will get slammed by the few sites that will talk about comics, and this would be The Beat, this would be Bleeding Cool, things like that. Before when Diane Nelson came in, there was a big pile of loot tossed at retailers and DC Comics to do TV commercials for the New 52. And now we saw a big rise in sales, not just with DC Comics, but Marvel Comics also. So right now, DC Comics doing poorly is having an effect on Marvel Comics, believe it or not. A lot of this ranking system is based off of Batman comics. Batman, you'll see it as number one, basically selling 100,000 copies. DC Comics came and put an event together that outsells the standard benchmark book, which is Batman selling 100,000 copies. So this does have an effect on Marvel Comics one way or the other, because we really don't even know the actual sell-through number. The companies do, and they're probably getting ready to adjust. I mean, just seeing them not have a panel at San Diego Comic Con, that's them adjusting. Asking Todd McFarlane to come in and have Spawn stand next to Batman for a photo shoot to sell a comic. That's something. Todd McFarlane's probably doing the most with getting DC Comics out there right now with his multiverse figures, but actually putting comic books in the boxes of toys to remind people, hey, comics still exist. Okay, this is a really tricky spot that the American comic book industry has found itself in. And it's like, well, what do you do? I don't think DC Comics can reboot, despite desperately needing to reboot, or getting back to core classic stories with characters where it's just good versus evil. That simple. I don't think they can do it, but I do think they can license the company out. I know I've said that from time and time again on here, but the reason I say that is because it becomes somebody else's problem. Whoever is the licensor, you are basically giving them orders on what they can and can't do, and all the blame and all the reward is kind of gonna reflect on them, but actually the reward will go to DC Comics in a weird way. And it's the easy out here. They really box themselves in a rock and a hard place here between SJWs and low sales, basically needing the IP to mean something. DC Comics at one point in time, they're going to evaluate it and say, is the monthly comic book that's being done by the regime that's up there now doing more damage than good for the intellectual property? The sales are reflecting here. I mean, people aren't responding with their wallets to this material. What's your thoughts, Yanzi?
My thoughts is that, especially we have seen for months now, that when you look at the top 20 comics, more than half is Marvel, which means that the balance is not even really, you want to talk about big two, is DC even pulling that weight anymore. And almost always the books in the top 20 for DC would be Batman books. Right now there are a couple of event books. So it stands to reason that maybe they just really need to license out the properties, part and parcel it to people who would know how to handle individual properties, like maybe Green Lantern, somebody who could do Plastic Man. And maybe that's just the best way for the company to go forward. After all, I don't think they can really, rely on the people, the staffers there right now to really put out a book that would be able to sell itself.
Right. Well, here's the thing. One decent Justice League book covers about 7 of DC Comics IP properties that they are that are important to them as a company. And that's also something that's very grave, I think, to DC Comics in general. Plus, that basically one book could knock out 7 of their issues with trying to keep their IPs alive. You cover Flash, Green Lantern, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. You could throw Martian Manhunter in there or some other character in there, Aquaman. Right there, you got like most of what they need for a 10-year film plan, which is what they're looking at, is covered in one book. The other thing is keeping the direct market alive. This is a big issue for Warner Brothers. And there's a reason they scrape comics from DC. It's not DCcomics.com, it's DC.com. And looking at the sales chart, it's like now it makes sense. I don't even know how you would deal with this if you're in that corporate standing. It's a minefield. Either way, you're going to be ridiculed. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And this is on somebody's desk right now, the new owners. Like, this is in a memo of this is the accounting of DC Comics. We had talked about in this channel before that they were doing like 3-month accounting. And shutting down every 3 months. They were counting every cent that was going into DC Comics and evaluating what was coming back. Why in quarterly? Because the comics are pre-ordered every 3 months and then sold. So they were analyzing every dollar spent, every dollar they're pulling back. I don't think this is a good time for DC Comics. If you guys will, please look down below, leave me a comment, hit that like, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications, and we'll keep you posted as the news rolls in, and we'll catch you guys again with another video.